1,000-year-old yellow cedars that live in this area, as well as the 500-plus-old western hemlock and Sitka spruce. These 1,000-year-old yellow cedars are dying because of climate change. It's ironic that it's a lack of snow that is freezing the roots. What's happened is that used to be there would be a significant blanket of snow that would protect the roots of the yellow cedar from the cold temperatures in the winter. Now it often doesn't snow or the snow melts, and when you get the cold snaps, there's no insulation. It is killing these 1,000-year-old yellow cedars, and it's all being attributed to climate change. And you can't just replace a 1,000-year-old tree. And that's the challenge, is that the logging itself is increasing climate change, and while they claim it grows back, it's not going to grow back with progression of climate change unless we do something seriously to address that issue. Let's see. Oh, back there.
Yeah, did they convict Stevens? I lost track of it.
They did, and then they reversed it. But he did lose his position as senator.
Oh, what was the politics up there?
He had invested about $250,000. He got about $250,000 in gifts from an oil company that he had given favors to. They did work on his home in Girdwood, Alaska, and almost $250,000 of work. And the FBI came and went into his house and came out with they put all the blinds down, came out with a couple trash bags of stuff. He was indicted and convicted of taking money. It wasn't directly bribery, but it was basically, that's what it was. And then because the prosecutors withheld some evidence, they overturned the conviction in the beginning part of this year, but he did lose his Senate seat in the process. So.
Well, what's the person that, what's her name?
Lisa Murkowski is there. Sarah Palin. Burn, baby, burn is not a very good way to deal with climate change. She's also known for being very corrupt, and that's why I think that she stepped down instead of dealing with all of the scandals that would have erupted. And actually probably still will, but won't get as much publicity because she's no longer governor. But Lisa Murkowski is the other senator, is another of the leaders, a senator, and she was appointed by her father, Frank Murkowski, an example of nepotism in the state.
Why did they spray pesticide after they cut all the trees down? I don't understand that.
Yeah, they spray herbicides to try to manipulate which trees grow back and to try to cut down some of the brush that grows over the trees. Because if they did select cutting, that wouldn't be an issue. Of course, I want no select cutting on the old growth. Just leave the old growth be. But areas where they've already cut and it's growing up really dense, there might be some amount of select cutting that could potentially be beneficial, but you don't have the problem. But they do spray enormous amounts of herbicides, and that's the thing, when you catch a fish or if you collect some of the clams to eat, you expect it to be one of the cleanest places on earth, but it's not because of the vast amounts of herbicides. And they don't go advertising it either. I didn't know about it until a Haida native person mentioned it to me on the boat of the Greenpeace Arctic Sunrise, and then the Greenpeace knew all about it, and it'll be in my book. My 5th book is all about this that I'm working on now. But yeah, they use enormous amounts of herbicides and pesticides to have the forest go back faster, and it's not a good way to do it.
Does the Forest Service do that? Do the
Yes.
taxpayers pay for the herbicides too?
Yes, the Forest Service does it. Our taxpayer dollars are paying for the poisoning of the Haida people and everyone who eats Alaska salmon. Now actually though, it is, of the salmon you get, it's the most ecological to get. The wild salmon, they're doing a lot of farm-raised salmon in Canada. Farm-raised salmon luckily are banned in Alaska. because it's very unecological. Some farm-raised fish are good, like catfish and tilapia, but farm-raised salmon is very, very bad for two reasons.
Is that what you call it, Atlantic salmon? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, Atlantic salmon, most of the Atlantic salmon you'll get is farmed. It's got a lot more mercury. What they're doing is strip mining the oceans and feeding that fish to the salmon, and a lot of bycatch in the process. It's increasing the mercury levels, and the main issue is lice. These huge lice live on, these parasitic lice live on the salmon because they grow so close together, and then these lice get into the native wild salmon, and they're causing huge, very negative impacts. So it's good not to eat Atlantic salmon, but to eat wild Pacific salmon, although there is some reports that the salmon fisheries too are beginning to reach their limits, and so, but the wild Pacific salmon, almost all of them are coming from this region, and it's generally sustainable at the moment. That could change.